1 hour of scary alone at night stories is 1 hour of pure terror. Welcome back. I'm here. And today we have an extra special treat for you guys, because today we will be going through an hour of scary alone at night stories. These stories are sent in by our viewers just like you, and they are guaranteed to keep you up at night. So make sure to stay tuned. Now let's get started with story number 1. This was sent in by user at midnight. I hope this isn't too long or boring. I had just gotten home from work and I worked the late shift. I got home around 12:30 a.m. and my husband was already asleep. I went straight to the bathroom to pee and then laid down next to my husband in bed. I didn't want to wake him up, so I pulled the covers over my head and tried to fall asleep. I live in an older apartment and the water pipes in the walls are pretty old too. I never hear anything during the day, but at night I can hear the water pipes creaking and groaning. I thought nothing of it, just making some noise as usual. About 10 minutes later, I heard what sounded like footsteps near our bedroom. I froze. I listened. Footsteps again. I don't have carpet, just hardwood floor. They sounded like someone was walking right outside our door, but I knew my husband would have heard it if anyone was actually there. I must have dozed off again, because the next thing I remember is jumping out of my skin when I heard a knock on our front door. I instantly panicked. Who could be walking around at 1 a.m.? Where do people even go at this hour? My husband, hearing me scream, jolted upright and instantly became protective boyfriend mode. He told me to stay quiet and listen. We heard another knock on the door, and we both screamed at the same time. He immediately shot out of bed and ran to the door while I froze in bed, paralyzed with fear. He opened the door and yelled, "Who's there?" No answer. My husband slammed the door shut and locked it. Then he came back to the room and wrapped me in the tightest hug ever. I think I cried for about an hour straight after that. We didn't even bother calling the cops. What if they laughed at us? It's not like we could have even identified the person anyway. If whoever was out there wanted in, they were getting in regardless of what we did. Since then, we've been trying to get our landlord to install a security camera outside our door. He keeps saying he'll look into it, but I know that means he won't be doing it anytime soon. I really appreciate my husband. He doesn't believe me when I say I'm scared. But after that night, I could tell he believed me and understands how terrified I still am. Now, whenever there's a loud noise in the middle of the night, he comforts me and tells me everything's okay. And sometimes I hear the footsteps again, but I guess it's just the house settling now. This one is from User Anonymous. When I was around 16 years old, I used to work nights at a pizza shop, normally closing around 3 a.m. There was one particular night where I stayed late with a coworker because we were waiting for someone to pick us up. I think it was around 4 a.m. I was sitting in the car by myself because my coworker was getting stuff from the store. I was sitting there, minding my own business until I heard what sounded like screams in the woods behind the store. I ignored it, thinking that maybe it was some kids. But then I started hearing what sounded like hail for about 10 minutes, followed by heavy footsteps near the car. I locked the car doors and turned the engine on. But I didn't leave. The footsteps stopped, but then I heard heavy breathing near my car. I started freaking out and honked the horn, which scared me because it sounded like the footsteps and the breathing sped up. I rolled the window down to yell for help, but instead I just got more heavy breathing. Finally, my coworker came out, and she told me that she didn't hear anything. She must have blocked most of it out because she works nights a lot. She got in the car, and thankfully nothing else happened. But on the drive home, we saw 2 figures running across the street, and they looked like they were struggling. Then they disappeared. I was shaken up, but I didn't want my parents to worry, so I didn't tell them anything. But to this day, I still wonder what was out in the parking lot that night. And the last one for today is from user Jenny Murgatroyd. I was working a late-night shift in a care home. A colleague and I were bringing a resident back to their room. We had a key for the room, but the power was out. I said, "Let's go find a spare torch." But my colleague said, "No, let's hurry up and get them back before somebody comes along." I thought she was joking, but I quickly realized she wasn't. We got the resident back into their bed, and I was leaving when I heard the resident yell out, "Help!" I stopped and thought it was strange, but then I just assumed they had called out in their sleep. I got out of the room and closed the door. Suddenly, I heard the resident screaming, "Help me! Someone's in my room!" I immediately started to panic and banged on the door. I called out, "What's wrong?" But no one answered. I tried the door handle and it was unlocked. I walked in slowly and called out, "Is everything all right?" The bed was empty. The window was open and there was a trail of blood leading from the bed to the window. I screamed and ran out of the room. No one had reported any missing residents, and the only way out of the building was through the front doors, which were locked. We searched everywhere, but he wasn't found. His disappearance was reported, and the police were called, but they didn't find anything either. The window was left open for ventilation because the power had been out all week, and it hadn't been checked before because it was the weekend and no one was in that room. But what really creeped me out was that my colleague hadn't seemed concerned at all when the resident had called out the first time. Like she had expected it, like she knew something was wrong. To this day, I don't know what happened to that resident, but I'll never forget the look of sheer terror on his face as I walked in. But now it's time for you to give us your very own scary, alone at night stories. We can't wait to read them. Just follow the instructions below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.